said about the whole mistreatment of Shedeur Sanders. Take a listen.
Bills wanted Kenny Pickett to battle 40-year-old Joe Flacco. That's their answer at quarterback. And they drafted Dylan Gabriel in the third round and then put through the Shedeur, the most popular player in the draft, they throw in the fifth round, and they say it's a value pick. When they say it's a value pick, the value is what? You're not giving him a chance to start. You're not. They won't even let him play the ones in practice. Why did they draft him? Why? If I'm that kid, I respectfully go into that office and go, you guys, thank you for the opportunity, but can I please go somewhere where I have a chance to play?
And here we go, folks. The fire is already burning in Cleveland. Tony Rizzo, yes, longtime ESPN Cleveland host, diehard Browns fan, went absolutely nuclear on Kevin Stefanski, Jimmy Haslam, and even Andrew Berry over how this franchise is treating Shedeur Sanders. And listen, if you thought this was just a small market complaint, you're wrong. This is making national noise because it's exposing something ugly. The Cleveland Browns don't want Shedeur Sanders to succeed. At least, not on their terms. Now let's back it up for a second. Remember draft night? Shedeur Sanders was supposed to be an early round pick. Some even thought Tennessee would take him number 1 overall. But that dream collapsed in front of the cameras. First night? Crickets. Second night? Nothing. By the third day, pick 144, finally, his name is called by the Cleveland Browns. Fifth round. A kid with superstar potential, a national following, the son of Deion Sanders, a player who sold out stadiums at Colorado, taken as if he were just another flyer pick. And here's where it gets even messier. Owner Jimmy Haslam? He didn't even want Shedeur. Reports say he flat out told Andrew Berry, "That's your pick, not mine." Think about that. The owner already distanced himself before Shedeur even stepped into the building. Fast forward to training camp, and it only gets worse. Shedeur only got on the field in that first preseason game against Carolina because the injury bug hit hard. Joe Flacco? Kenny Pickett? Dylan Gabriel? Tyler Huntley was brought in, but it was Shedeur who got the start. And what did he do? He lit it up. 3 quarters, 138 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns, 19 yards on the ground, including a clutch 16-yard third down run. He flat out gave fans a show, and the crowd in Carolina, yes, even in Carolina, was cheering for him. Colorado Buffs jerseys in the stands, Shedeur gear everywhere. He turned a preseason game into an event. So what does Cleveland do after that performance? Do they reward him? Do they give him more reps? Do they test him with the first team? They turn back to Dylan Gabriel, the third rounder who threw a pick 6 and lost a fumble in his preseason action. They cling to Joe Flacco, who's pushing 40 and hasn't been relevant since the Ravens Super Bowl run. They even hang on to Kenny Pickett, who couldn't keep a job in Pittsburgh. And the worst part? They invent reasons to sideline Shedeur. Arm soreness, they said. Then an oblique injury. Conveniently timed setbacks that keep him out of first-team reps. But when he does get a snap, he produces. Even with limited opportunities, he's outshining Gabriel and competing neck and neck with veterans. Audience, let me ask you, does this feel like a team protecting their investment in Shedeur, or does it feel like a team actively holding him back? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Here's where Tony Rizzo enters the chat, and trust me, he doesn't hold back. Rizzo took to the Cleveland airwaves and said exactly what so many Browns fans have been thinking. If you're not going to give this kid a fair chance, why did you draft him? He called it what it was, a value pick. But a value pick for what? For merch sales? For clout? Because if you won't even let him play with the starters, then you're wasting his talent. And Rizzo didn't stop there. He said if he were Shedeur, he'd walk into that office, thank them for the opportunity, and respectfully ask to go somewhere else. Somewhere he can play. Can you imagine? A rookie quarterback having to ask for a release, not because of performance, but because his own team refuses to let him prove himself? That's how bad this has gotten. But let's go to the numbers. Because you know what they say, men lie, women lie, stats don't. Against the blitz, Shedeur, 6 of 7, 62 yards, 2 touchdowns. Dylan Gabriel, 5 of 7, 46 yards, 1 interception. On play action, Shedeur, 3 of 4, 30 yards, a touchdown. Gabriel, 1 of 6, 10 yards, another interception. Deep passes, Shedeur went 1 of 2 for 30 yards. Gabriel didn't even try, 0 attempts. Intermediate throws, 10 to 18 yards. Shedeur, 4 of 5, 63 yards, 2 touchdowns. Gabriel, 5 of 7, 81 yards. Do you see the difference? Shedeur is pushing the ball downfield, testing defenses, making real NFL throws. Gabriel is dinking and dunking, playing in a handcuff scheme designed to protect him. Yet somehow, Gabriel sits above Shedeur on the depth chart. Stats don't just tell the story, they scream it. And the Browns are ignoring it. Now let's zoom out. Training camp numbers over 14 practices. Joe Flacco, 91 completions on 151 attempts, 6 touchdowns. Kenny Pickett, 42 of 56, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception. Dylan Gabriel, 87 of 160, 11 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And Shedeur Sanders, 70 of 100, 8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He's the only one who hasn't thrown a pick. He's efficient. He's delivering touchdowns. He's showing he belongs. Yet the depth chart still reads, Flacco at 1, Pickett at 2, Gabriel at 3, and Shedeur buried at 4.
The Cleveland Browns is not even giving Shedeur Sanders a chance to even go out there and perform. I think some of these injuries that they're saying is Shedeur really hurt. I don't know. We saw how Shedeur played in college, getting knocked around, and he toughed out every situation, and he was able to give it go. And when you're talking about an oblique injury, you know, you can play with an oblique injury, man. Shedeur Sanders is a warrior. He gets out there and gets it done. We see what Shedeur Sanders did at Colorado with a bad back. He went out there and was throwing the ball. Some of the things that are happening with Shedeur Sanders make you go, And I'm glad that Tony Rizzo called that out, man. So, you know, Jimmy Haslam, man, right now he's probably sitting in his owner's box and he's probably just keying at all this stuff that Shedeur Sanders is going through because he don't want this kid to succeed because he didn't want to pick him in the first place. It would look good on Andrew Berry if Shedeur Sanders gets a chance to prove himself. Shedeur Sanders is NFL ready. Like he always say, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. And we know Shedeur Sanders has been putting in countless hours of work, even in the offseason. We've seen footage by way of Well-Off Media. Shout out to Bucky, Well-Off Media, for all the footage they provide, all the workouts Shedeur was having.
That's where the controversy explodes. Because Rizzo is saying what Shedeur's camp has to be thinking. Why stay in Cleveland if you're not even allowed to compete? Why not go to a team that actually wants you? And here's the bigger issue. Tony Rizzo pointed out that the Browns framed this as Flacco versus Pickett, a 40-year-old veteran against a struggling young quarterback. Meanwhile, they've got the most popular rookie in the entire draft sitting in the corner. A kid who brings energy, fans, media coverage, and most importantly, production. And they're ignoring him. Let's pause right there and ask the question, what's the endgame here for Cleveland? Do they really believe Joe Flacco is the future? Do they think Dylan Gabriel is the answer? Or is this about pride, not wanting to admit that Andrew Berry's 5th-round value pick might actually be better than the 3rd-rounder they invested more in? Audience, what do you think? Is this about football, or is this about politics in the front office? And remember, Shedeur Sanders isn't just any rookie. This is Deion Sanders' son. This is a player with a massive spotlight, a media machine, and an entire generation of fans rooting for him. He's already proven at Colorado that he can take hits, that he can fight through pain, that he can lead a team under pressure. And now Cleveland is sidelining him with injuries that may or may not even be real. You can hold a player back on paper, but you can't hide the truth when the tape is rolling. Now, let's go back to Tony Rizzo because he didn't just talk numbers, he went for the jugular. He said point blank, they won't even let him play with the ones in practice. Why did they draft him? Think about that. The Browns are treating Shedeur Sanders like a prop, not a quarterback. They keep him in the shadows, while propping up Joe Flacco, a man who's 40 years old, and Kenny Pickett, who already failed in Pittsburgh. And then there's Dylan Gabriel, drafted in the 3rd round, but playing like a late-round project. 1 touchdown? He had a pick-6, he had a fumble, he couldn't stretch the field. and yet somehow, he's still ahead of Shedeur on the depth chart. Rizzo said what everyone else is whispering. This doesn't make sense unless the Browns are protecting their own egos. You don't bench your best performer unless the decision has nothing to do with football. And here's where it gets personal. Tony Rizzo flat out said if he were Shedeur, he'd walk into Kevin Stefanski's office and ask out. Respectfully, of course, but still, ask out. How many rookies get drafted in the 5th round and within weeks are already at a point where respected analysts are saying, you're better off leaving? That's how toxic this situation looks from the outside. Let me throw this to you, the audience. If you were Shedeur Sanders, would you ride the bench in Cleveland and hope things change, or would you demand a shot somewhere else right now? Comment below, because this is the question Browns fans and Shedeur fans are wrestling with every single day. Now, let's really dive into the Haslam factor. Jimmy Haslam didn't want Shedeur. He never wanted Shedeur. He gave that pick to Andrew Berry, probably thinking it was just a little PR move. But now that Shedeur is proving himself, it's making Haslam look bad. It's making Andrew Berry look good. And you know how NFL ownership politics work. Egos run the show. So instead of celebrating that their young rookie is outperforming expectations, they bury him. They keep him in injury management. They delay his reps. They refuse to elevate him up the depth chart. And if you think this is just conspiracy talk, remember, this is the same franchise that once convinced itself Johnny Manziel was a franchise savior. This is the same ownership group that gave Deshaun Watson a fully guaranteed contract in the middle of scandal. Do you really think they're above mishandling Shedeur Sanders? The Browns don't have a quarterback problem. They have an honesty problem. And what about Joe Flacco? Let's be honest, Browns fans. Flacco is not the future. He's not the present either. His days of Baltimore glory are long gone. Rizzo even said it on air. Those days have sailed. And yet Cleveland is rolling into Week 1 against the Bengals with Flacco as QB1. Let me ask you, does anyone outside of Berea believe Joe Flacco is taking this team to the promised land? If you're being real, you know the answer is no. Flacco's a placeholder. Kenny Pickett? A gamble. Dylan Gabriel? A project. That leaves Shedeur Sanders as the one quarterback on this roster with a mix of talent, poise, and fan energy to make a real impact. But the Browns can't see it, or won't see it. If Flacco stumbles early, should Stefanski immediately hand the reins to Shedeur? Or do you think the Browns will double down on Pickett or Gabriel before ever giving Shedeur a real chance? And let's not forget Shedeur's background. This is a player who toughed it out at Colorado, playing behind one of the worst defensive lines in college football, taking hit after hit and still producing. He played through pain, through injuries, through a collapsing pocket. And now Cleveland is saying an oblique injury is enough to keep him sidelined? Come on. Rizzo called it like it is. Shedeur is a warrior. He's proven he can play through worse. And here's the kicker. While Shedeur is stuck in Cleveland politics, Cam Ward, the guy some said should go ahead of Shedeur, is struggling with the Titans. Struggling so bad he hasn't even thrown a touchdown pass in preseason. That contrast tells you everything you need to know. The NFL isn't about who can play. It's about who they let play. So let's circle back. Rizzo blasted the Browns not just for wasting Shedeur, but for insulting their own fans. He said Shedeur was the most popular player in the draft, and he was right. Shedeur has a national following. He moves the needle. He sells out stadiums. And Cleveland buried him in the 5th round, called it value, and then locked him out of first-team reps. Tell me, Browns fans, how much longer are you going to tolerate this? If you were in those dog-pound seats, would you be cheering for Flacco, or would you be chanting for Shedeur Sanders to get his shot? And here's the brutal truth. Cleveland is setting themselves up for disaster. Because if Shedeur finally gets his shot and balls out, the entire league will know the Browns tried to hide him. And if he never gets his shot, his camp might force a trade, and Cleveland will be remembered as the team that let another star walk out the door. Think about that history. The Browns had Bernie Kosar, let him go. They passed on Patrick Mahomes. They cycled through 30 quarterbacks in 2 decades. And now they've got Shedeur Sanders, and they're making the same mistakes all over again. History doesn't repeat in Cleveland. It screams. So let's close this out. Tony Rizzo wasn't just venting. He was holding a mirror up to the Cleveland Browns and saying, "Why did you draft this kid if you won't let him play?" And the silence from Kevin Stefanski and Jimmy Haslam speaks volumes. They can't answer it. They won't answer it. Because the truth is, they don't want Shedeur Sanders to succeed on their watch. But Shedeur? He's ready. He's NFL ready. Like he always says, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And he's been ready. All off-season. All preseason. Every single rep, every single stat, every single flash of brilliance proves it. Folks, I'm going to leave you with this. Is Shedeur Sanders the future of the Cleveland Browns, or is he destined to thrive somewhere else because this franchise can't get out of its own way? This is Gridiron Insights, where we give it to you real, raw, and uncut. If you're rocking with us, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and turn on those post notifications so you never miss a drop. We're going to keep calling out the truth in the NFL, no matter how uncomfortable it makes the front office. Because here, we don't protect the politics. We protect the players who earn it. Like and subscribe to Gridiron Insights, and we'll catch you on the next one.